The dark truth about the fate of SS soldiers. Why were they shot on the spot? During World War II, SS soldiers, elite soldiers of the Third Reich, discovered the terrible truth: they were not captured. They were shot on the spot. It was revenge for years of atrocities that no command orders could stop. The SS Schutzstaffel, security detachments, began their history modestly. In 1925, it was just a small group of bodyguards designed to protect Adolf Hitler from assassination attempts. 8 men in black uniforms who swore allegiance to the Fuhrer until their last breath. No one could have imagined then that this handful of fanatics would turn into one of the most terrifying military organizations in the history of mankind. Heinrich Himmler, appointed Reichsfuhrer of the SS in 1929, had grandiose plans. Under his leadership, the organization grew rapidly. By the beginning of World War II, the SS numbered hundreds of thousands of people. It wasn't just security, it was a state within a state, with its own laws, ideology, and ambitions. The SS turned into a multifunctional organization, the tentacles of which penetrated into all spheres of life of the Third Reich. They controlled the police, ran concentration camps, engaged in racial research, and conducted economic activities. But that was not enough for Himmler. He dreamed of his own army. At the end of 1939, after much persuasion, Himmler received permission from Hitler to create armed formations of the SS Waffen SS. It was supposed to be not just an army, but an ideologically sound military elite, a new type of soldier, political warrior. Waffen SS recruits received special training. Unlike ordinary Wehrmacht soldiers, who focused on military tactics and discipline, the SS received a powerful dose of indoctrination. They weren't just taught to fight, they were taught to hate. The enemies of the Reich were presented not as opponents, but as subhumans, parasites who must be destroyed for the benefit of the Aryan race. Physical training in the Waffen SS was grueling. The recruits went through brutal trials designed to toughen their body and spirit. Combat exercises with live ammunition, where the death of comrades was considered an acceptable price for realistic training. Hand-to-hand combat to the point of unconsciousness. Marches for tens of kilometers with full force. All this created soldiers who were ready for any sacrifice and any cruelty. By 1944, the SS's reputation among the Allies was appalling. These were not just enemy soldiers, they were executioners, murderers, sadists in uniform. Every Allied soldier knew the stories of SS atrocities, and many of these stories were true. The SS was responsible for managing the concentration camp system, where millions of people were tortured and killed. The Einsatzgruppen SS followed the advancing German troops on the Eastern Front, methodically destroying the Jewish population, communists, and intelligentsia. In the occupied territories, the SS carried out punitive operations against the partisans, burning down entire villages along with the inhabitants. But the Allies were particularly outraged by the SS treatment of prisoners of war. Contrary to all international conventions, the SS regularly shot captured soldiers. British commandos, American paratroopers, Soviet officers, for the SS they were not prisoners of war to be protected. They were enemies that needed to be destroyed. The Malmedy massacre in December 1944 proved this on the Western Front. During the Ardennes offensive, soldiers of the 1st SS Panzer Division Leibstandarte Adolf Hitler shot 84 American prisoners of war. The unarmed soldiers were lined up in a field and methodically machine-gunned. The few who survived, pretending to be dead, told their comrades about this atrocity. The news spread through the American parts like wildfire. SS soldiers differed from ordinary German soldiers not only in their ideological training, but also in their behavior in battle. They rarely surrendered, preferring death to surrender. It was part of their training and worldview. The SS man had to fight to the last bullet, to the last breath. The Allied soldiers quickly learned to treat any attempts at surrender by the SS with extreme suspicion. Too often, the SS used military tricks bordering on treachery. They raised a white flag, and when the Allies approached, they opened fire. They pretended to be dead so that they could attack from the rear. They hid grenades under the bodies of their comrades, turning the evacuation of the wounded into a death trap. A veteran of the 82nd Airborne Division of the United States recalled, "We learned not to trust the SS. An ordinary German soldier could surrender, and we accepted his surrender. But with SS, it was easier to end them right away than to risk the lives of your guys." Revenge of the Liberators. April 1945. The Allied forces are advancing deep into Germany and are encountering concentration camps. What they see surpasses the worst nightmares. Mountains of bodies, living skeletons in striped robes, crematorium furnaces, still warm from the last burning. On April 29, 1945, American troops liberated the Dachau concentration camp. What they saw infuriated the battle-hardened soldiers. About 50 SS guards who tried to surrender were shot on the spot. The American soldiers lined them up against the wall and opened fire with machine guns. The incident was officially recognized as a war crime, but none of the participants in the shooting was ever punished. The command understood that after what they had seen in the camp, it was impossible to demand composure from the soldiers. It was not difficult to identify the SS soldier. In addition to the distinctive black or camouflage uniforms with runic lightning bolts, many SS men had a blood-type tattoo on the inside of their left arms. This tattoo, designed to facilitate medical care for the wounded, was now becoming a stigma. The prisoners desperately tried to get rid of her. They cut her out with a knife, cauterized her, but the scars gave them away. While SS prisoners were shot sporadically on the Western Front, this was almost the rule in the East. The Soviet command did not officially recognize SS soldiers as prisoners of war, considering them war criminals. The SS on the Eastern Front has been tainted by particularly terrible crimes. They participated in the siege of Leningrad, where hundreds of thousands of civilians died of starvation. They burned down Belarusian villages along with the population during anti-partisan operations. They shot Soviet commissars and Jews according to the criminal order of the commissars. The Soviet soldiers retaliated with revenge. The Red Army soldier, whose family died during the occupation, had no doubts when he met the SS man. The order from above read, "Mercilessly destroy the fascist fiends." And the soldiers carried out this order with enthusiasm. A Red Army veteran told me, when we took prisoners, the first thing we did was check the documents and tattoos. The Wehrmacht is one thing, ordinary soldiers. But we didn't take the SS. Why feed the killers? Officially, all belligerents had to comply with the Geneva Convention on the treatment of prisoners of war. The orders of the Allied command demanded humane treatment of all prisoners, including the SS. But there was a chasm between the official directives and the frontline reality. After the Malmedy massacre, an unspoken order went out to the American units: do not take prisoners from the SS. Formally, there was no such order, but everyone understood what it was about. Platoon commanders and companies turned a blind eye to the SS shootings. The combat report said, the enemy put up fierce resistance and was destroyed. No one specified that the violent resistance consisted of an attempt to raise his hands up. The British units acted in a similar way, especially after the SS shot a group of British prisoners of war in France. Canadians remembered the compatriots shot by the SS in Normandy. Each Allied army had its own bill to the SS, and this bill was paid in blood. Spring of 1945. There is chaos in Germany. Regular units of the Wehrmacht are fleeing or surrendering en masse. But the SS continues to fight with fanatical tenacity. They set up ambushes, mine roads, and turn every house into a fortress. For the Allied soldiers, tired of 4 years of war and dreaming of returning home, these last battles were especially bitter. Why die now when the war is almost over? And they didn't stand on ceremony with those who continued to resist. In these last weeks, even the German civilian population turned against the SS. In some cities, local residents, realizing the futility of further resistance, themselves dealt with the SS men who were trying to organize a defense. Lynching of SS soldiers on the streets of German cities has become a common occurrence. People who had endured the terror of the Gestapo and the SS for years finally had the opportunity to take revenge. SS soldiers tried to escape. They changed into Wehrmacht uniforms, hid among the refugees, and destroyed documents. But their tattoos, accents, and mannerisms gave them away. Many were identified by former concentration camp prisoners and shot on the spot. Those who managed to escape in the first days after the surrender lived in constant fear of exposure. The hunt for former SS men continued for years. Some fled to South America, others lived under false names in Europe. But for many, the reckoning was only delayed. They were not pitied. They were feared and hated even after death. The black uniform with silver lightning bolts has become a symbol of absolute evil that deserves no mercy. And when the time came to pay back, they got the full measure of the cruelty they themselves had sown throughout Europe.